Hey you guys, Sarah Picaro. Today's video is going to be about things that come up in therapy sessions. I work specifically with people who've been in emotionally, spiritually, mentally abusive relationships, are coming out of them and coming to themselves, looking for a very, very powerful way to take everything that they've experienced outward and explore how it's impacted them inwardly. So, as we go on this journey using hypnosis, using rapid transformational therapy, what comes up is not just the relationship with the narcissist, but any and everything else that's connected and related to what it was within them that took them into being in these toxic, unhealthy, narcissistic, emotionally, spiritually, mentally abusive relationships. And you always have a connection to your past. And in your past, if you're an adult today, you were a child. So I wanted to share with you the top things that come up and the top aha moments or revelations and things that maybe you wish you would have known about your childhood. Because if you had known that, it could have prevented you, right, from being in a narcissistic or toxic, unhealthy relationship today. Hindsight 2020, you can't go back and ever change your past, but you can change the beliefs that you have developed about yourself because of those past experiences. So some of the top things that come up is that people that I work with today as children found that they were often scared at night, and would go to sleep at night crying, feeling terrified, feeling scared, feeling afraid, feeling alone. And they would cry themselves to sleep most nights and just feel utterly alone, even if they, had to share a room with a sibling, a brother or sister, and realized I just went to bed feeling alone every night, even though I wasn't alone. And I imagine that that's what shows up in that past toxic and unhealthy relationship. That they constantly wanted to run. They wanted to run away from home. They wanted to run away from their parents. That they found home was not a safe place to be. Home was not a safe place to be growing up. Maybe parents were alcoholics. Maybe they were always fighting. Maybe they were always trying to do their best, doing what they were told, but it was never good enough. And so they always wanted to run from their parents. They had that feeling. And in that unhealthy relationship, you have the same feeling. I want to just run away. I want to get out of here. And sometimes you do, and you run into the arms of another person, right? Either you have an affair or your partner has an affair, and then you go do it because you think, well, if you did it, I'm going to do it, right? And so you had that feeling in childhood that you wanted to always run away from your parents. In adulthood, in this unhealthy relationship, in adulthood, you get that same similar and familiar feeling. In childhood, children felt left alone to decipher what was right and what was wrong, and were not taught that. And now they feel so confused. The first sign of abuse is confusion. On one hand, this is happening to you. And on the other hand, you know it's not right that it's happening to you, but you don't understand why it is if you know it shouldn't be. So you're left feeling utterly distraught, confused, wondering, always worried, trying to figure it out. And you notice your mind gets stuck in these ruminating thoughts and these ruminating patterns. As a child, you should not be left to figure that stuff out on your own. You should have parents that you can go to that will teach you and guide you and support you and help you understand. But as a child, if you didn't have that, oftentimes you seek this partner unconsciously who has those same ways of being, who is not going to be there and love you and care for you and support you and hold space for you. That space to help you understand, figure things out in a way that's right for you. So in childhood, if you are not getting your needs met, every child truly and inherently believes in that they deserve to have their needs met. No baby comes onto this planet and says, oh, I don't deserve to have my needs met. They simply cry. And if you've ever had children of your own, you know they just cry and they will throw a tantrum and they express their needs because they expect their needs to be met. And if they're not met, they act out. And kids act out. They act out when they're experiencing a feeling, when there's tension, when there's pressure, when something's off, when something's not right, when they're not getting their way, or there's a miscommunication, a misunderstanding. They will act out. I remember having a client who said, Sarah, my parents told me, I always was told that I had anger issues. Like from as far back as I can remember, from the time that I was a little boy, I remember being on playing t-ball, and I swung and I missed, and it was okay. I mean, I missed a lot, but this one particular time I missed, I got so enraged and so infuriated. I threw my glove down and I stomped off, and I just made the biggest scene. And my parents came over to me and stuck their finger in my face and said, "You have anger issues." And then they sent me to a counselor for my anger issues. And in our therapy session, in our RTT session, in our hypnosis sessions, that came up. And that belief about himself. And actually, that was when he was a little bit older and was playing t-ball. But what came up was when he was only 2 years old, 1.5 or 2 years old. He was standing in the kitchen with his mom, and his mom hovering over him, bigger than him, towering over him, and got that feeling, she's towering over me, and I can't express myself. I don't know exactly what it was, but I wanted or needed something that she had, and I could see it, but I couldn't reach it, and I couldn't express it, because 2-year-olds don't have the same language that adults do, or even toddlers do, to be able to use to express what they want. And so I'm acting out, and I'm hitting, and I'm crying, and I can feel this fury and this rage inside of me, and I get punished because of it. So children will act out when they need help. And in a relationship, if you're not getting the help, the love, the support that you need, you'll act out too, because there's an unmet need, an unmet desire. And in an unhealthy, toxic relationship, that gets used against you. And it gets you told that you're crazy and you're psycho and you need help and look at you, and all of those gaslighting phrases, because there's not a safe space to act out or express what you want or need. Same thing in childhood. Children will inevitably seek love from the one that they feel unloved the most. And this is why, if you have children with a narcissist and you're the non-toxic, non-narcissistic parent, and you wonder, why do my children, why do they fall for that narcissist stuff? Like, why do they not get it? Why do they not see it? Because they feel safe with you. If you're the quote unquote the healthy parent, the non-toxic, non-narcissistic parent, you get it, you see it. And a lot of other people do, I imagine, depending on your situation. But you don't understand why your children love that person. Well, first of all, it's their parent. And children will seek out that love from whoever they feel unloved. They will never ever blame the parent. They will blame themselves. That is just the way that children are programmed. They never say it's the parent's fault. They always internalize it and believe that it's their fault, that they're not good enough, that if they only can do more, then they'll get that love that they're seeking from that parent. Well, if that parent is a narcissist or severely toxic, severely unhealthy, they don't have that love to give. So the child feels like there's a deficit within them, there's something wrong with them, and they will continue to try and continue to seek that love from that person that they feel unloved with the most. And I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of that, but that doesn't just magically go away. It's a pattern that shows up in your life as a child if you experienced having an emotionally unavailable or narcissistic parent, and will show up in adulthood. And you will seek partners who have those same traits, that you want that love from them, that love from that person who is never going to give you love because they don't have it to give. You can only give what you have to give. And if they don't have it to give, they just can't give it. But you will continue to seek it. The next thing that it's important to understand in childhood, and the thing that comes up a lot in therapy, is that kids, people, humans, especially children, will do whatever they need to do to avoid feeling abandoned. Abandonment, rejection, betrayal are some of the deepest wounds, invisible wounds, and they leave the deepest scars, the deepest cuts, the deepest The deepest bruises, all of it. And children and kids will do whatever they need to do to avoid feeling abandoned. That's why sometimes they'll run away. They'll run off to a friend's house and always want to go be at a friend's house because at that house, perhaps they feel loved, they feel accepted, they feel connected. Perhaps that child doesn't feel that at home, and they will do whatever they need to do to avoid feeling abandoned. And I remember even walking through the doors of my home as a child and not feeling that I belonged there. I was always at my friend's house, always. Anytime I could go over there, I took the opportunity. She very rarely came. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. I had like one best friend. She very rarely came to my house because her house felt more safe. It felt more welcoming, more comforting. And as a child, I would always go over there because children will do whatever they need to do to avoid feeling abandoned. And in my own home as a child growing up, I felt abandoned. Well, it's no wonder with the first narcissist in my life, the first husband, the covert, I felt abandoned. I felt rejected in my own home. So I would do whatever I needed to do to avoid feeling that. I worked a lot. I worked out a lot. I just always wanted to be outside of the home. The similar patterns were there from childhood and in my adulthood and relationships. Kids do not inevitably know how to protect themselves. They need to be taught how to protect themselves. And when you begin to do this inner work, you make this connection to that understanding, that knowing that you weren't taught how to protect yourself, that you were left to figure it out on your own. And oftentimes you were forced to and had to, and then praised for doing that. Parents would say, "You're so good." This comes up a lot in therapy when children had multiple siblings, or when the adult was a child with multiple siblings and they were the easy child, and mom and dad always just said, "You just always figured it out. You were just so smart. You were just so good. I didn't really have to do much. You were just so easy." Well, they had to self teach. They had to teach themselves how to protect themselves, how to take care of themselves, how to defend themselves, because mom and dad were so emotionally checked out and so busy with the other siblings that they didn't have a choice. But children need to be taught how to protect themselves and how to provide for themselves. But they shouldn't have to figure it out on their own at a really early age. That is the job of parents, is to teach them that. And they need to be taught that. And there's a lot of pain when you have to teach yourself that and you don't have healthy, checked in parents to teach you that, be that for you. Another thing that comes up is children feeling scared to come home. And I mentioned that earlier when we talked about that children will do whatever they need to do to avoid feeling abandoned. Actually, what comes up a lot is that when adults who have experienced a lot of trauma, especially in adult relationships, when we're taking a back look back at our childhood, at their childhood, they were scared to come home. Maybe one of the parents was an alcoholic. Maybe one of the parents had a particular mental disorder and were manic and depressive, and they were scared to come home because they never knew what mood mom or dad were going to be in, or if they were going to be drunk, or if they were going to be home, or if they were going to bring different partners home. They were scared to come home, so they would avoid coming home. I've had several clients who say that they had imaginary friends and they would just go out in the backyard all the time alone and just be with their imaginary friends and make up games. They would do whatever they needed to do because they were so scared to come home because they never knew what they were coming home to. And when that is your childhood, that's the foundation that you base everything else off of. Well, of course, you're going to choose a partner who you're afraid to come home to when you're an adult, if that was your experience growing up. Another thing that comes up is that children heard growing up that they ruined their parents' life, or they heard things that were said like, "I wish you were never born," or "This is all your fault. If only I never had you, then XYZ. I could have made it in life. Then your dad wouldn't be like this. Then mom wouldn't be like this. This is all your fault. I wish I never had you. You ruined my life." And a lot of people, deep, deep, deep emotional wounds get revealed where they felt like they didn't want to be alive. And they remember wondering what they were doing here, wondering why they were here, wondering why they were born, and wishing that they never were. Well, these don't just magically go away. These inner wounds, until they're addressed and healed, remain. And so you end up picking partners, narcissistic partners, who will tell you that you ruined their life. And if it weren't for you, then XYZ. All the while, you have done everything that you could possibly think of to do to cater to this person, to give them everything that they wanted and needed and everything they said they wanted and needed. Yet it's never good enough. And yet they still tell you, you ruined my life, or you XYZ, and they're dumping all these projections on you. Well, if you heard that in childhood, that you ruined your parents' life, and now you're in a relationship with a person and you're hearing that you ruined their life, got to take a look at that, right? What is it about you? If you're the common denominator in all these experiences, there's something that needs to change, transform, and heal within you if you ever want to get out of and break free from feeling the heaviness and the burden of this. Another thing that kids shouldn't feel is they should not feel pressured to do things to keep their parents from going off, from raging, from exploding. And a lot of times, if you find that you're in narcissistic relationships as an adult and you take a look back, you see that you felt pressured to do things to keep your parents from raging. So that's that fawning trauma response, that people pleaser, that fixer. You had to tiptoe, and you always felt like you were on edge, and you always felt like you were walking on eggshells because you, as a child, had to do things, particular things, certain things, to keep your parents from exploding, from raging. And now, as an adult, you've chosen the narcissist to be with, you've chosen this partner where the same thing is there. You had to do things you have to do things to keep this person from raging and going off on you. So those are things about childhood that most people never get told, because where's the book on that when you're a child? There is no book on it. There's just the experience of it. So there's a direct connection and correlation between your upbringing, your childhood, and the types of relationships and experiences that you engage in adulthood. So if you're wanting to heal from narcissistic abuse, you've got to take a look at all of that. But you don't have to go back and relive any of it. In hypnosis and rapid transformational therapy, we get into a state where your unconscious mind shows you what it needs to show you in order to move forward, in order to heal. And you just review it. You're not reliving it. You're not re-traumatizing. That's a horrible way to do therapy, is to just sit there and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about it, because then oftentimes you're just re-traumatizing yourself over and over and over again. To allow your mind to do what it needs to do, to get in there and just remove and release and get all of that stuff out, those feelings, those images, those thoughts, those emotions, those sensations that you have that are stuck in your body, stuck in your heart, stuck in your mind today, because of those past experiences, because of those things that you wish someone would have told you about childhood. Well, here you are, probably not a child watching this video, but you're an adult watching this video, wondering why my life is such a mess, wondering why I'm so depressed and so anxious, wondering why I just can't seem to get unstuck, wondering why I find myself in these relationships that have the same common theme, and realizing I'm the common denominator. So that's what it's about. It's about turning it around, turning it inward, and doing the inner work to heal yourself. You cannot stop, fix, or change anyone else. You cannot stop the narcissist from gaslighting or hoovering or baiting or smear campaigning you or all of those terms. You cannot stop anyone else from doing anything that they're going to do. You can't control them, you can't fix them, you can't change them. Imagine you tried and you failed miserably. But you can fix and change you. You can fix and change those negative, detrimental, limiting, self-defeating thoughts that you have about yourself that are now ruining what probably feels like every part of your life. So the connection to it is from your past, is from those inner unhealed wounds, is from your childhood, is from your upbringing, like or not. Okay? So if you want to fix or change all that, you can. And it doesn't have to be this long, extended, really painful thing. So I hope that if you found this video, you found it for a reason, and you've connected with some of the things that I've said. I know I've been there too, and I'm on this journey and past that point now. Not perfect by any means, but understand this and understand how to guide you to that inner place in your unconscious mind that can set you free from all this stuff. So I would love to talk to you more personally, one-on-one, about maybe working together, using rapid transformational therapy, using hypnosis to guide you to this inner place of healing, making this connection, and then being free from all those thoughts about yourself, all those lies that you have believed for so long to be truths about yourself. So thank you guys. You can always find more information in the description below this video about how to connect, possibly work together one-on-one. And I look forward to that. I hope this has helped you or someone that you know and love in a really beneficial way. Thanks, everyone.